Hello and welcome to lesson 4.2. Today we're going to look at solving inequalities by addition and subtraction. Before we begin, we need to have the understanding of what an equivalent inequality is. An equivalent inequality is nothing more than an inequality with the same solutions. Okay, so they might look a little bit different, but if you simplify, you will get the same solution. So if we take a look at a quick example, we have x plus 4 is greater than 7, and we have x is greater than 3. Now I can take this x plus 4, and I'm going to write this off to the right here. So I have x plus 4 is greater than 7. If I go ahead and treat this like an actual equation and get x by itself, I can subtract 4 from both sides. And when I do that, I end up with x is greater than 3. So this right here is the same as what I have right here. Therefore, x plus 4 is greater than 7 is what we would call an equivalent inequality. So to look at the definition, the addition property of inequality says, for every real number a, b, and c, if a is greater than b, then if I go and I add another number, and that's called that other number c, then a plus c is still going to be greater than a plus b. Likewise, if a is less than b, then if I add a number c to both sides, then a plus c will still be less than b plus c. So let's take a look and see how we apply this. Example 1 says to solve 12 is less than or equal to x minus 5. So again, when we see the word solve, we want to get the variable by itself. Now with this, I'm going to treat this just like the equation 12 equals x minus 5. So our first step then is going to be to add 5 to both sides. And when I add 5, I end up with 17 is less than or equal to x. So you can leave your answer like this. However, I personally like to write my variable first, just in the event that I ever have to graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my variable first. So I have x. Notice that my inequality is kind of like open towards the x. So I'm going to have to reverse that and make that x is greater than or equal to 17. And now I have pretty much the same thing. It's just written with my variable first. Now we also have a subtraction property of inequality. And this just says that if we're looking at real numbers a, b, and c, if a is greater than b, and I decide to go and subtract a number c from both sides, then a minus c will still be greater than b minus c. Likewise, if a is less than b, and I decide to go and subtract some number c from both sides, then a minus c will still be less than b minus c. So example 2 says to solve y plus 5 is less than or equal to negative 7. If we were to treat this as an equation, our first step would be to get the y by itself, which means we have to undo the 5 or subtract 5 from both sides. So now that will give me y is less than or equal to negative 7 plus a negative 5 is going to give me a negative 12. So y is less than or equal to a negative 12. Now we'll take a look at a few examples and then we'll be all set with this section. So example 3 says the maximum safe load of a chairlift is 680 pounds. In the spring, a cyclist and bicycle go to the top of the slope using the chairlift. The weight of the person is 124 pounds and the weight of the bicycle is 32 pounds. Which inequality best describes how much additional weight W the chairlift could safely carry? So if you think about this, we have a person that's 124 and a bicycle that's 32 pounds. So I have 124 plus 32. That's going to give me the total weight of the person and the bike that are going to be using the chairlift. Now I can use additional weight, it says, so I'm going to have to add W, and I know that my max load of my chairlift is 680 pounds. So when it says my max load is 680, that means I need to stay less than or equal to 680. So now what I've done is I've created an equation that I can go ahead and, it's actually an inequality, but I can go ahead and simplify this. So just like if it were an equation, I'm going to simplify And I'm going to collect my like terms. So 124 plus 32 is going to give me 156 plus W is less than or equal to 680. Now I want to go ahead and get my W by itself. So I will subtract 156 from both sides. And when I do that, this is going to give me W is less than or equal to 524. So I'll write this up here just so you can see it a little better. W is less than or equal to 524, and that would be pounds. So as long as you don't add anything over 524 pounds, you will not exceed the limit of that chairlift. Example 4 says your local bank offers free checking accounts for accounts with a balance of at least $500. Suppose you have a balance of $516.46 and you write a check for $31.96. How much must you deposit to avoid being charged a service fee? So in this case, we are starting out with $516.46 and we're writing a check, and writing a check means that we are taking money out. So I'm going to subtract $31.96, which is definitely going to put me below my 500. So I'm then going to have to go and add some other amount. And I'm going to call that other amount D for deposit. And I know that this all has to be greater than or equal to, because I want at least $500. It would be okay if I had $1,000, but it wouldn't be okay if I had $400. So we need to make sure that we have at least $500. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and proceed like I would with an equation. I'm going to collect my like terms, and I get 484.5 plus D is greater than or equal to 500. Again, I'm going to get rid of the 484.5 so I can get D by itself. So I will subtract 484.5 from both sides. And when I do that, I end up with D is greater than or equal to $15.50. So what this means is if I don't put in at least $15.50, then I'm going to have to pay a fee because I haven't met my minimum requirement of $500. I can put more than $15.50, I just can't put less than. Our final example says, suppose your sister wants to qualify for a regional gymnastics competition. At today's competition, she must score at least 34 points. She scored 8.8 on the vault and 7.9 on the balance beam and 8.2 on the uneven parallel bars. The event that remains is the floor exercise. It says write and solve an inequality that models this information. So we know that she scored an 8.8, a 7.9, and an 8.2. Okay, those are for the vault, the balance beam, and the parallel bars. The uneven parallel bars. Now, what it says is she's got one more event, which is the floor exercise, and that score is going to be added. So I'm just going to write plus F for the floor exercise, and she needs at least a 34. So because she has to have at least a 34 or better, we're going to set this greater than or equal to 34 points. So when I combine these three terms here, I end up with 24.9 plus the score F of the floor exercise, and we know that it has to be greater than or equal to 34. So I'm going to solve for F by subtracting 24.9 from both sides. And when we do this, we can see that F has to be greater than or equal to 9.1. So this means that she has to get a score of at least a 9.1 on the floor exercise. And actually that was the answer for part B. So for part B, we'll say your sister needs at least, okay, so we want at least a 9.1 on the floor exercise. Now for part D or C, it says to write 3 scores that your sister could make that would allow her to qualify. So if we just write 3 scores, and you can pick any 3 scores that you choose, but she could have something like a 10, a 9.6, or a 9.9. Those would just be 3 that I would select. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great day.